ClinicalTrials.Gov, when we think about what we do in clinical research, really ultimately what we're hoping to do is to support the public's health, right? We want credible data from protected participants so that we can get our products approved and they can be used to help out in diabetes or oncology or what have you. One of the things that we know about good research and good science is making sure that we have not only that credible data from protected participants, but that people can rely on our data, that our data is reproducible. Clinical research is like keeping a giant laboratory notebook. We document everything that we do so that someone can come along behind us and say, yeah, that makes sense. I get those same results. Because remember, we have tightly controlled requirements for eligibility and access for investigational product during clinical trials, but FDA doesn't regulate, medical practice. So when those products get out there to the larger population, we may not have those same limitations and constraints. I mean, practitioners should try to follow along with that. But what happens then is that we maybe don't have some of those safeguards, but we should be able to show the same sort of effects, same sort of issues. And if nothing else, the last few years have taught us that if the public doesn't trust the work that we're doing, then they're less inclined to actually accept the products that we do present. So ClinicalTrials.Gov is a patient-facing portal. So it gives an opportunity for individuals who have been recently diagnosed or even those that have a chronic disease to look at where clinical research is being conducted geographically and within that therapeutic area. But it is incumbent upon all of us involved on the other side of it, if you will, to make sure they're getting reliable information. And what we're going to talk about here is FDAAA, the final rule that went into effect because, like I said, things were kind of getting lost in the shuffle from 2007. And another interesting element, kind of loops us in even further, is that Title 8, I believe, of FDAAA required, put the FDA in a position to require information. So NIH said, you guys are the ones out there looking around. So we get certification. We'll talk about that here in a moment. Certification of compliance. We also, to submit that. We also have to, for those applicable clinical trials, have special language in the consent form, verbatim language, and we've seen where we do not have legally effective consent because people have truncated that language or it didn't translate appropriately. And those compliance issues, those compliance letters, which we'll look at here in a moment. This has been a slow ramp up in terms of these regulatory requirements and the enforcement action. Hey, we're going to do this, and here's some guidance. We're going to fine you. We could have civil and monetary penalties. And then I don't know if they've had more time on their hands or what happened, but last year it's like, okay, now's the time. So we have those 3 letters to sponsors, which we will review. So this is me back when, people used to look a little more presentable, but this is me, and even though Steve makes me sound really mean by running a tight ship. So what are we going to talk about? We are going to look at the role and expectations of the responsible parties. So who is the responsible party and what are they responsible for? We're going to look at the requirements for registration. So how do we get started? We're also going to talk about, okay, well, who registers and what results are required and when are those results required? We'll also look at the reporting requirements for various stages in your research. So do I have to provide information for a product that's unapproved? I've been teaching a couple classes over the last couple weeks and reading a couple SOPs, and it's kind of interesting how people take these regulations and just kind of turn them for their own purposes. I think one of the more interesting ones I heard recently was, well, we're a small company, so we're not required to do this. We're not required to put our results out there. Well, no, you registered that study. It's an applicable clinical trial. You need those results. And we'll see that in one of the letters too. So this final rule, we want to make sure that we are registering that study, again, that patient-facing portal, and we're keeping everyone in the research community and the public apprised of what's happening with that research. Yes, you even have to report negative results. So we want to make sure that everyone is aware of what's required of them. The purpose of this, of course, is access, human subject protection. Like, hey, this is taking place. Here's what you need to know. This is who you contact if you're interested and it's been reviewed. We talked about research integrity. We're looking at evidence-based medicine. And we're all looking for, if we're going to be involved in providing care, we want to make sure that care is predicated on something that is reproducible and reliable. And we're also trying to limit the resources that are expended. Right? Allocation of resources in terms of, okay, who's already doing this type of research? And we know there's a lot of industry pushback when we saw changes in this regulation, because there was concern that, hey, if we put everything out there, then we know that not everyone's using ClinicalTrials.Gov is a patient. Not everyone is looking for a study. They're looking for, hey, who else is conducting this study and where are they doing it? Let's go see if we can scoop that site. So that information is a little bit harder to glean now from the interface, but the purpose of it, housed in the Library of Medicine within NIH, is to make sure that we are engaging as a society in terms of what can I do to help you? How am I working towards helping you? And that's really what we try to do.